Hey guys, I'm Marcus Buff Bagwell, and today we are going to talk about independent professional wrestling. Just saying those words, man, that means a lot to me because the majority of my career was done in the independent circuit. Unfortunately, let me say that again. Unfortunately, my career was done in the independent circuit. When WCW and WWF merged as a company, and I was gone within a couple of weeks, there was money to be made. It just was out in the independent circuit that I knew nothing about. And I mean nothing. So I when WCW and WWF merged, and WWF, I signed with them a 2-year deal that I stayed there 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it was. The first place I went was Australia, but that would be considered independent. It was a company called WWA. The independent circuit, how it works is if you call a person for a job, then obviously you look like you need money, and you're going to go for a lot lesser rate. Independent professional wrestling is just like AAA baseball. It's a way to look at it. There's single A, there's double A, there's AAA baseball, and then there's the pros. AAA baseball is independent pro wrestling. So you got your guys that are getting ready to go to the show, to the big time, and you got the big time guys that are coming down to the independent circuit. It's just like AAA baseball. You get sent down to AAA, you get sent down to independent pro wrestling. It's how it works. So you just got to let your name work for yourself. Again, if you try to call promoters and tell them you're available, then you look hungry. So promoters reach out to you. Now, how it works from there is you got to just kind of figure out what works for you. You got to figure out what your fee is. Once you figure out your fee, you got to figure out hotel and air and what do you fly and all these things. It took years for me to perfect. Not years to perfect, but it took me probably a year to perfect it. And it came down pretty quick to where, the airline you want, which mine was Delta. A hotel I could care less about, Red Roof Inn, I didn't care. Because the more money you can save the promoter with airline and hotel, the more money you can make. And that was always my view. A lot of guys do deposits or not. I did deposits when I first started, but man, it's real hard to keep up with. So I use the thing, I'd go by the airline ticket being the deposit. If they spend $400 or $500 on an airline ticket, no matter what happens, I got a $400 or $500 ticket I can use. So I use that as my deposit. Now, if I never worked for the guy before, I've never worked for him ever, I may get a deposit the first time working for him, but then I have his trust then, and you don't do the deposits anymore. So is there a way to go, to WWE and AEW and TNA after you leave? That's when you do go, like after I didn't make it at WCW and WWF happened, that's when independence happened for you. And again, I made a lot of money. I probably made a couple $100,000 a year, which is a lot of money in the independent circuit. But you got to work, man. So like, for example, my calendar would be Atlanta, LA, Texas, Canada for the weekend. And the WWF and the WCW would fly to a town and do a loop. Like they would fly to Atlanta and do Macon, same hotel. Augusta, same hotel. Rome, Georgia, fly home, a loop. My loop was LA, Texas, Canada for the weekend. So it was much harder to do and not as much money. It was just whoever was the hungriest, and I was hungry. I wanted to make money, so I did really well on the independent circuit. Independent guys that you work for, they want to talk to you. Having an agent ain't going to work in independent wrestling. If my agent called these independent guys, they wouldn't even call them back. It just doesn't work. They want to hear my voice. They want to hear Mark Bagwell's voice. And so I did all my bookings. I'm the one that took care of my calendar. It was me doing all my stuff, hands-on, one-on-one, and I did it really well because I was friendly. I showed up. I did my job. Even during my 20-year addiction, I never let it interfere with my wrestling in the ring, my ability. There was several times I messed up outside the ring, but never. I don't think there's a video out there of me being messed up in the ring. I really respected this business and didn't allow that to happen. Um, you know, do you contact these promoters or do they contact you? Again, if you call them, you're kind of showing you need money. So you got to be in a place, even if that phone's not ringing, you got to just sit and wait. So uh, the average payday for, a former WCW guy like me, I would say is, $500 to $2,000. And it's up to you, and you got to know the promoter, you got to know the area. It goes on how hard the travel is, and you got to be versatile, man. You got to have the right tone in your voice. You got to be a people person. The better you can talk, the better your independent career is going to be. And I had all of those values. I really think from top to bottom, I really think I was one of the best independent pro wrestlers ever, only because of where it came. I mean, when I started independently, there was nobody with that kind of run off television that fresh in the independent circuit. Nobody saw what happened to me coming. Nobody saw it coming. So I am able to get to Boaz, Alabama, and to these little towns I never even heard of. All of a sudden, these are towns I can make money in. And I did. The biggest thing of all is how to make extra money during the independent thing, because a lot of these independent promoters, they can't afford a lot of money. So let's say, I was able because I was so good at doing merchandise. I was able to go for a lower figure sometimes because I knew I was going to make between 1,000 and 1,500 in merchandise. I came up, Mark Bagwell himself came up with a thing that made me not hundreds of dollars, it made me thousands of dollars. And the thing I came up with was at intermission, I had a Polaroid camera. And at intermission, I would get in the ring and do pictures at intermission. Now that sounds easy, but if you didn't do it exactly the way I did it, you didn't make a bunch of money. You had to do it the exact way I did it, which is you couldn't announce intermission and then walk out there, because half your crowd is going to walk outside to smoke. Half your crowd is going to get a hot dog. You can't do that. That's the biggest mistake you can make. You've got to go to the ring, be in the ring, do an interview with talking to everybody about, thanks for coming, and something from the heart, like I would do. Thank you, fans, for being here. And at that time, the promoter goes, at this time, a brief intermission, and Buff's in the ring taking pictures. Then you've got to have a person that's going to come up that you set up and tell him, hey, I'll give you a free picture if you come first. For some reason, nobody wants to be first. Nobody. So if I forgot that one piece, if I forgot to put a person in there to come up and get a picture first, I made half the money I was going to make. But if I had that one person come up, get in line to break the ice, I was going to make $1,000. I mean, it would be circled around the ring. And then when you're in the ring, now keep in mind, I got to find somebody to take the pictures. I got to be ready when those 10 pictures are up to reload it real fast. I got extra film. I got extra batteries in the ring. I had all of these things going on at one time. But this is what it took to make ultimate money. This is what it took. and I was good at it. Every show I accepted from a promoter, I got the ring. And I'm not trying to be cool when I say this, I'm being honest. I don't care if Kevin Nash was on it, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, whoever the top indie guys were at the time, they didn't really care that much about it because I think they made more money on their guarantee, but I didn't. So I would make more of my money doing this in the ring thing. So a lot of times Scotty would jump in with me and I'd give him his percentage because it was my film, my camera. He understood that. I would set it all up and me and Scotty would take Polaroids. But a Polaroid camera in for 5 years made me thousands of dollars in that wrestling ring. In these little small towns, you had a Polaroid camera that you could take a picture and you could sign the bottom of it. To this day, 20 years later, I go back, not without exaggeration, 10 to 15 years later, I go back to these towns and somebody will walk up with a Polaroid camera picture of me and them. And I'll go, hey, let's get another picture now. We'll take another one. And some people got 2 of them where they saw me 5 years earlier. So it really meant a lot that I came up with this, and it was a big money maker, man. And not to mention your T-shirts and your 8x10s. 8x10s, for example. I remember I've been doing, I think if somebody could have talked to me about the independent circuit and said, listen, man, let me tell you how to do this with your merchandise. I think if somebody could have really spoke to me about it, I think I could have got rich again. I really do. Because I was at a building one time and I had one picture of me, one glossy 8x10, black and white 8x10. And I was sitting there with it, one picture, and my line was real long. A girl comes up to me and she goes, I've already got 3 of those. I go, wait a minute. I go, you got 3 of these pictures? And she goes, yeah. And I go, are you kidding me? She goes, no. So I go, oh my God. So then I go home and then I get, 3 or 4 pictures and then a T-shirt and then a top hat. And then you add things to it, koozies and hats. And I came up with buff gear. And so you just get better and better at it as you go. But if I would have been that good at it out of the gate, I really think I could have got rich again. But the independent circuit is as hungry as you want to be. It's out there to get full on. And I believe, looking at my independent career, I could not have done it any better of coming out of it where it was successful for the promoters. My name was great in the wrestling ring. Again, the stories you heard where Mark Bagwell messed up, it was outside the ring. I really respected the business to not mess up in the ring. I did a great job of doing my job. And it wasn't easy, man, because I was upset that I was in, the independent circuit at a high school gym instead of being in the WWE where I felt like I belonged. But I find a special place in my heart for the independent circuit. I loved my time there. I made a lot of money. I paid my bills and survived with the pro wrestling independent circuit. So I've got nothing but great things to say about it.